Okay, welcome to the Expect Success podcast. We highlight real estate as an investment and speak to professionals who make it happen every day. Today, I'm joined by Huey Whittaker and Barbara Whittaker. And when we start, just like to start with a brief intro and highlight your real estate, how you got into it, and your tenure actually in real estate as well.
Absolutely. So for me personally, and Huey will go into his piece as well, but I started in real estate when I was 16 years old. Started when I was in high school and a real estate office. Really was on a pre-med track, but fell in love with real estate very quickly. Began learning everything I could about real estate. So I went to real estate school, started doing a lot of transactions, got my license, began, doing my own transactions. And then I switched to the commercial side, started doing commercial real estate. So at this point, I've been doing real estate over 25 years in various capacities, from everything residential and commercial related, land, distressed properties, large acquisitions, divestments, businesses, pretty much across the board.
Yeah, in my background, coming from immigrant household, didn't have much experience with real estate growing up, and really introduced to real estate as kind of an investment, but also as a reality through Barbara, meeting Barbara, and just kind of understanding what she did, and then having really a vision and a goal for myself and family for the future to make sure that we start to implement real estate into our future. So I also, got licensed over 10 years ago now, but also purchased our first home about 20 years ago. And really, we still have that home. So that was really the start of our real estate kind of movement in the family.
Okay, and just to deviate from our list of questions really quickly, Huey, with you coming from obviously a professional sports background, how was the transition? Was your mindset always in business in some capacity, or were you just taking Barbara's lead on that? And how did you guys gel as far as a team and taking lead and fuse off of each other and working together so well?
Yeah, so I give Barbara a lot of credit for a lot of things that she introduced to me in life. I like to think, and I would think that people that know me would also agree that business in my mind was a constant. I mean, in middle school, I was, selling 20 blow pops for 25 cents, the blue ones that were exclusive. So, I mean, that was, people say what's your first business? That would be my first business. I remember it vividly. So business was always something that I loved, I enjoyed, but, and for, as a kid, it was about the money, right? And trying to, build up for whatever it is you wanted to purchase. But, it quickly became really a way of life as I entered into, college. And that's what I went to school for at University of South Florida. So, playing football was the thing that I did and I loved. But, business was alongside of that. I played football for so long, and it kind of carried me throughout my years and gave me a free education and gave me some opportunities beyond it. But I always had business going on the side of that. And, last few years of my playing career, Barbara and I had properties. So, I would always have a desk set up, and I would always be working and, setting up things and kind of working with Barbara to manage the properties and start to build the legacy and the foundation of what our legacy was going to be in real estate. So the transition wasn't extremely difficult because it was already started. It had already started while I was playing, right? Which I think is not necessarily the case for a lot of athletes.
Yeah, one thing to add that was pivotal for Huey when he was exiting out of football was he began to really, ask God for direction on where he needed to be, and what plays into our whole portfolio on how we operate as a team and overall is he's in, financial investments. And so the investment world for him kind of comes into the real estate side and kind of, all works together for our whole portfolio, what we try to do from a wealth building perspective.
Okay, awesome. And that's a lot because obviously you have two different dynamics, two different personalities, two different backgrounds, very strong and obviously of the same mindset melding in one avenue. So that's awesome. And Barbara, with you being in real estate so long and joining forces with Huey, you saw a lot of different ways to go with real estate and a lot of different ways to build an empire and a legacy for your family. So how did you land on the investment? When did you start looking at real estate as an investment? How did you land on the investment strategies that you guys did?
Sure. So, while I was in high school working in real estate, I began to see very quickly how equity works. And so equity is what you can, building value in your home. You buy it at a certain price and then it grows in interest over time. So I saw how that worked firsthand. And so one of the goals I set for myself while I was in high school was I want to make sure I own a home by the time I'm 21 years old. And that was something that was not really heard of in our time growing up. My parents, had a house. It took them a while to buy a house. And, I saw family around me, but I wanted to really change the trajectory of our family. And I wanted to start that by buying young. So I knew if I could purchase a house by the time I was 21 and I just kind of rinse and repeat that process, we could really build something slowly and over time. Slow and steady wins the process as far as we're concerned. So it was never a get rich quick thing for me. It was set a goal. I set a goal and I stayed focused on that. I didn't accomplish that goal. I didn't buy a house by the time I was 21. I got sidetracked by this guy right here a little bit, but in a good way, in a good way. So we actually ended up buying our first home when I was 22 years old. So that, setting a goal is really important. I didn't hit that target specifically, but I stayed focused and eventually, a year later it came to pass. So that is when I started kind of looking at real estate as really, the foundation of how we want to grow.
Yeah, fundamentally, like we believe that your first home is your first real estate investment. So, so that's kind of why, when she talked about, first home, because that was the first real estate investment, right? And again, going back to our, history, that's exactly how and what we have going on still, right? Owning our first home still, through multiple transactions and things, we still have that first home.
Okay. And Huey, with your investment background, how do you see that playing in to your real estate investment strategy, if it does at all?
Yeah, it does directly play into it in several ways. One, kind of growing in the business of investment management and wealth management and protection and retirement planning. I met with a lot of people, and one thing that again we believe is a foundation of a household is if they own or they rent, right? And everyone doesn't need to own, but if it calls for it, we probably should explore that and make sure that's like one of the first things that a person can do. And if they can do it, because a lot of people do dream about it and they don't realize that they're closer than they think they are, or they're actually there. So a lot of times I was passing people to Barbara as a first step to say, hey, you know what, you need to get my wife, I would also first say, I know a great real estate, broker, I want to connect you. And by the way, when they see the email, it says Whittaker at their last name. And so they would get a consultation or whatever with Barbara and they would have a conversation. and and that's how, honestly, that's how I really believe like it's a big piece to a lot of the relationships that we've been able to build. It's not about me, getting their money or that they had liquid or, selling them a product. It was about me and Barbara setting up their financial structure the right way from, brick by brick from the foundation up and not just throw a bunch of, pieces in there and shake it up and hope it all lands. So, that's one. And then another way that it comes in is how we invest ourselves, right? Which is again, what we do, we recommend. So, the market right now is all-time highs. We're heavily invested in real estate. I don't necessarily love it, right? Because I would have loved to take the markets up 27% year to date, S&P. We do have some stock market exposure, right? But I would love for the weighting to be more heavily stock market right now. But we're heavily real estate right now, which again, not a problem, but that we keep a line of sight into that. And we try to rebalance as often as we can because obviously real estate is not the most liquid asset to hold, but over
Right.
time, it's one of the assets that builds wealth that is undeniable. So although we didn't take place in the 27% run up for a portion of our assets. Those assets took place and took part in a 150% run up over a 2 or 3 year period in real estate over the last few years, right? So even though we didn't get to get out of that, we're still sitting, okay. And that's how we look at it from our perspective, but also we can help others to look at what they do from that same perspective. That look, diversification is key still, and not just, in real estate, but maybe we need some more liquidity. Right? So it comes into play, I would say often.
Yeah, and just to kind of tag on to what Huey was saying earlier is, we kind of laugh about him passing people over to me, but what we really believe is like a full picture overview of a person's situation. Everybody is in, a different situation, a different setup. They have different goals, trying to achieve different things. And so we think we give like a whole view perspective of the possibilities. Okay, let's get the full picture. What are you trying to achieve? And for both of us, integrity is really important. So I'm never commission driven in my real estate business. He's never commission driven in his financial investment business. So those pieces together, just giving people a true partner that's really interested in them building, their financial legacy, or their picture from, a wealth building perspective is just really what drives us. We know we can change their situation if we just have the full understanding of what they're trying to do.
Okay. You guys actually touched on a lot of good points that leads us into another question you may have already answered actually a little bit too. Barbara, when you meet with new clients, either one of you, when you meet with new clients, potential clients that are looking to use real estate as an investment vehicle, whether it be for cash flow, long-term, how do you assess their strategy, and how do you basically assess their strategy and what's best for them, where they are, where they want to go?
Yes. So I kind of call it like a triage. Like we want to get all of the details of what their current situation looks like. We make an assessment. So we want to know, what are your goals? Do you have any money saved? Do you have any life insurance? Do you, what's your debt situation look like? Do you have good credit? We want to know all of those pieces plus a whole lot more to really say, hey, maybe buying is not the best situation right now. I never want to put someone, in a property and then 1 year later they're in trouble because they didn't really prepare themselves financially to have that asset. Owning a home costs money. So we are very practical in what we offer as solutions to people. We are solution providers is what we think about it as. And so we take that assessment. We discuss it with that person and we say, okay, this is what I think. You probably need to wait 6 months, do X, Y, Z in that 6-month period. Let's come back and revisit and see what you've done. Or no, you're looking pretty good. You got all the pieces. Like, I don't want you to buy a house and you can't, feed yourself while you're in that house. So we want to make sure they're really setting themselves in a better situation. So we make an assessment and then we go from there, whether or not it makes sense. And I always tell people, listen, I want to educate you. I want to make sure you have all the information. I want you to ask as many questions as possible. I give them homework. I tell them things to read or tell them where to go to, different resources. We're really big on providing people with resources as well. So it's an assessment for us. That's always the first step before we do anything else.
Okay. I wanted to ask you, because we touched on it a little bit, but I don't think we went I want to go a little deeper into your own investment strategy. Because again, being exposed to the real estate world as long as you have been, you got to see a lot of different ways to build wealth with this vehicle. So what is your personal strategy? Do you commercial for your own self, fix and flips, single family homes? What is your strategy?
Our strategy, to be honest, it will vary. So I'll give you a couple of things that we do. We operate like a business. So quarterly, you work in a big financial or a big corporation. Reviewing financials in a corporation is something that happens on a regular basis. So, as a VP of an oil company, I review financials on a monthly basis for our company and how it's operating. Huey, reviews financials with his clients. So we make sure on a quarterly basis, at a minimum, we are reviewing, our finances. We do a review of our, our profit and of our assets and our liabilities. And then we look at, what our cash flow is looking like. We look at our savings. We look at how it's protected. So we do that on a regular basis, and it consistently happens. One thing we learned from that is that we can see if we're sticking to our strategy and our goals, or if we've missed the ball somewhere and need to make
Yeah.
adjustments. So it happens on a regular basis for us. The second thing, as far as our, building our investment strategy over time, we've consistently made adjustments. So, you always hear about people failing. We've had some failures, very minimal, thankfully, but we've had some failures. We make adjustments. We see what works. We see what doesn't work. We have a proven method that works. And we've kind of figured out, like Huey said, first piece is, do you own a home? People will come to us and say, where do I start? I want to start investing. First thing I'm going to always say is, you need to buy yourself a house. We want you to know what it takes to operate a house, to do renovations, to have that liability, to have that expense. And then from there, we're going to set up, the next step will be looking for properties that you can then support if it happened to be vacant at any point in time, if you aren't able to have a tenant in there. So there's several pieces we have to our investment strategy. I'm sure you probably want to add to what I'm saying on what our model looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I think you covered it, pretty well. I mean, but yeah, I mean, we get into a house or we get a call basically because, we have, I'll say, people that feed us, but, we're out in the community. So people know that we buy, property. So friends or, people that, again, we have a relationship with that maybe are one of our vendors are, for example, one of our most recent projects, our cabinet and countertop guy called us and had a property. And so we actually purchased that property and we renovated that property. We also have a team of wholesaler team, basically, that feed property. So when we get those calls, though, we go in, we take a look and we assess kind of what that looks like. And then, if it's a rental, if it's, something we want to hold on to, what the rents look like, Barbara does all the research, or if it looks like it's better for us to make it more of a quick turnaround flip and what that timeline looks like. And she kind of manages the research and really those numbers on the front end of it. I kind of work on the budget and the service, right? The vendors who we can call in, if we can do the work, how the timeline to do the work, in and out, how fast we can turn it, that kind of thing. But that's how we assess. So right now we'll do long-term rentals, we'll do flips. We also, kind of have a couple of groups of people that do their own projects too, that we kind of are involved in one capacity or another. And so some of the things we do are just kind of normal, like the flips and the rentals, but some things are just one-offs, right? Somebody calls and needs help, or they get stuck on a project, or they have a question, like, a lot of that comes into play. So our strategy is very, we definitely have a process, but we also know how we have to be flexible as well, right? To like be able to kind of take on some things that may come that are just left field. And, recently, starting to charge like a consultant fee, right? To help manage projects that are not ours, but we can, kind of bring back a lot of value through cost savings and vendors and the resources. And again, minimal fee for a pretty large value, is what we would set to, because it's not even about like us making that aspect. Is really just about the time that we have to put in. We at least get some compensation for that. So that's kind of how we.
So, and I want to add one other thing too is, one of the things that we really learned, we really entrenched ourselves early in our relationship on wealth building strategies, read a lot of books, listened to a lot of ebooks, did a lot of research, and consistently you will find, of course, that you need to have at least 7 streams of income. We've talked a little bit about diversification, making sure all your eggs aren't in one basket. And we really squeeze the lemon when it comes to that. So from a real estate perspective, Huey kind of mentioned we do consulting. I'm a real estate broker. He's in financial investments, and I'm, we have daytime jobs. We have a foundation. We have rental properties. We have flips. So we are squeezing the lemon from a real estate perspective from various angles, which has been, very lucrative for us to be able to build something Whereas, just having that one line of I'm just going to do fix and flips really minimizes what you're able to squeeze out of the real estate lending sometimes. Definitely it works for a lot of people, but I would venture to say that even those people that you may hear, online that do fix and flips, I'm assuming they would probably do other things as well. So we want to make that clear when you're doing, a strategy from an investment perspective. There's other ways you can make money out of real estate. It is not just a one lane kind of thing that you have to focus on.
Absolutely. And you guys, again, keep touching on a lot of good points. I want to try and remember the question, not something I wanted to add to it. From doing this, obviously my tenure in real estate is nowhere near as long as you guys. But one thing I've learned, especially from doing the podcast, talking to people, one of the biggest things that people learn pretty quickly, or hopefully learn pretty quickly, is the pivot. Look at the opportunities that are put in front of you with what you have. Like you said, in the consulting and managing other properties that people can't do or taking over that stuff.
Yeah.
There's some people that look at those as opportunities. Some people look at it like, that's not my lane. I don't want anything to do with this. So they kind of shy away from it. But the ones that have been able to diversify their income in real estate are the ones that see those as opportunities and can quickly pivot. And I don't want to say capitalize as in like take advantage of, but take it
Right.
an opportunity to help someone and still help themselves along the way as well. Which
Yeah.
moves me kind of into the other point. You guys are doing a lot. And this wasn't one of our scheduled questions, but you guys are doing a lot with, like you said, the day job, the brokerage, and fix and flips and managing. So with that being the case, have you seen that work to your advantage as far as hedging against the market, just to keep a consistent flow of, income and a certain level of comfort?
Absolutely. I mean, we all know about the housing crisis that took place in, '08 time frame. We were affected by that, but we weren't devastated by it because we had several avenues of things that we were working on. One of the things that we really preached is if you're going to get into investing, know your, you need to know what kind of investor you are. So one of the things I teach is you need to identify what fits what you're looking for. I may meet an investor and they only need to make $10,000 on an investment, right? But that doesn't work for us. Our time is more valuable than that. Those are not our parameters for what we need to make on an investment if we're doing a flip. So if you're thinking about getting into investing, you can get pulled in so many different directions. And I kind of spoke to it earlier on a lot of different things we do. We do all of those things because it makes sense for us. We're not doing everything because it doesn't make sense for us. We have parameters on when we will decide to do something, not decide to do something. That's extremely important. Some people will give themselves really narrow parameters in investing and then they get burned. And then that scares them from continuing to invest. So it's really important to know how you define yourself as as an investor, because that's going to be important as opportunities come across your desk. You need to be able to walk away from things. You need to know when it's time to sell an asset, when it's time to, acquire another asset. You need to have those specifications, and you learn that over time.
Yeah, and like she says, our time is more valuable than that. Like that's not an edict that we created.
Right.
All we do is look at the numbers, right? So you have to like actually know what your time is worth, and then you just put that into practice, right? So like that's like a fundamental rule for us is it's the time that we exchange for money, right? And so that's what you have to, and that's something we read and listen to podcasts and things. And once you start like implementing some of these factors into your day to day and how you function, you start seeing more efficiency, because she mentioned you have to be mindful of what you kind of pull into your world from what comes across your desk. We definitely have an open slot, kind of, not really, but we want to move into a different business venture, a new investment opportunity. What is it going to be? We don't know. We've also had several business opportunities come our way, to partner with, well-known franchises, and also businesses that are doing very well. We've had opportunities to run businesses that people wanted to bring us into. We also know how to say no. And there's a good book, on that too. So you definitely have to be mindful of your time, but you also should know what your time is worth.
Absolutely. You mentioned a good book. Go ahead and throw the name of the book out if you remember, because everything you're
Yeah,
saying is very helpful to people, because not everyone looks at it the same way.
Yeah, I was trying to remember the author. I'm gonna send it to you. I'll do one better. So I'll give you all the information, and maybe there's a way you can build it into the podcast.
Yeah, I definitely can.
I had to interject for a second to insert the book that Huey was referring to, which is Start With No by Jim Camp. Now back to the podcast.
All right, I know we're coming close to our time, so I want to get this last part in because it is very important to your investment strategy, but not only that, but your lifestyle. And it really gels with me as well. So I will be reading this one. I just want you to explain to people your philosophy on faith, family, and wealth building, and how you actively implement that into your strategy, all while helping people at the same time.
I'll start, and I know Huey will add on. I mean, the foundation for us is faith-based. We have certain things that we believe that come from the Bible that says we have access to. And the Bible's pretty clear about, you are responsible to kind of build your prosperity. So for us, a lot of what we do is faith-based. We believe in just being good people, just helping. We want to see other people build that. So we believe part of our purpose and what we're supposed to do on this earth is really help people build wealth. We really have, like I said earlier, built a good model. It's not scheming. It's not get rich quick. It's not like, hey, I have a carrot, pay me, this money for it. I want to show you a pathway of what's worked for us and been successful for us. So that you can build it for your family and then go out and do. One of the things that we've built over the past couple of years is we have a family foundation, and that's really the basis of the foundation. It's comprised of two initiatives. One is the Overflow Initiative, and the first initiative is a Seed Time Harvest Initiative. The Overflow Initiative is the second initiative. The first initiative, the Seed Time Harvest Initiative, is based on putting seed in the ground. We have, put seed in the ground by working, giving, helping, teaching, educating, learning ourselves. And we know we have a lot to really offer to other people to kind of build them up to what they want to, do and all that good stuff. So that's the first part. So we have, financial literacy that we teach, which we really, you need money to do everything. Unfortunately, wealth is not just about money. It is a full, wealth, health, wellness, good mindset, which is a big thing. So we focus on that. And then the second piece is our Overflow Initiative. We think that once you build yourself up and you start having a little overflow, you should be able to go out and help other people. And we feel like we have an overflow phase right now where we're able to help others. And that's really what we like to do.
Yeah, I don't know. I think she did a pretty good job. Maybe I'll give you an example. Like what we're trying to accomplish is like the complete play. Right. And I played receiver in football, or I tried to for many years. And one thing that I think maybe is overlooked, you watch football, any game, doesn't matter. You see the quarterback throw a pass to a receiver. It's like, oh, okay, whatever. Or they miss it, like they're not on the same page. But, and I've kind of said this to someone before. I don't know that everybody understands the depth of thinking for a receiver, right? And this is kind of what we're trying to accomplish is the complete play. But people don't see all the things that happen, right? Like one of the things Barbara and I did this year was go get our MBAs, right? And people wouldn't even know that we were getting our MBAs and that we both finished, right? Because it's like business as usual.
Summa cum laude, I might add. Go ahead.
We have 4 girls, right? Like, so we have kids. We actually are pretty active with them and try to stay engaged and go to all the sporting events. Like we work hard to try to be good parents too, right? So again, like just a couple of things, but again, going back to the receiver. So the receiver, goes in the huddle, quarterback calls a play, receiver runs to the line. As the receiver is going to the line, he has to think about where he has to line up based off of the play that's called, right? So now he has to assess if he's on or off the ball, right? Tell the referee if he's off the ball or on the ball, and then he has to assess the defense. So now the coverage that is being played against that play determines what the receiver does, because there are conversion routes. If you're running a hitch, you have to convert it to a go route. And that's not always determined by coverage itself. Sometimes it's determined by how the person on top of you is playing you if they're pressed or off coverage. And that's just pre-snap. So now the ball snap, and you have to kind of keep in mind, this is just an ongoing few seconds, right? So the ball snap, now you need to know what route you're running, because they could change the defense right as you snap the ball. And you need to know what route you're running, at what depth you're running it. Oh yeah, and by the way, the ball's coming about 50, 40 miles an hour at you. You need to catch it and make sure you get upfield and score, right? And that's just kind of like the quick thinking of it. But I think you understand my point, right? There's a lot of things that go into it. But what someone sees that's just watching or just looking at it is somebody ran around, either caught or dropped the ball. The key, though, in life, right? Like, we have an opportunity to where we can line up again. Even if you drop the ball, you can line up again, and you have another opportunity to run a route and catch the ball and make a touchdown. And what we're trying to do is, again, just continue to kind of complete the play and do our part. And the foundation goes into that. Our children go into that. Our family goes into that. And ultimately, we want to be helpers. And I think Barbara said it best in the beginning. We want to be a resource. And sometimes that's outside of ourselves. And we have understood that. And we have to continue to understand that. Sometimes it's about handing it off to someone else because we're not the right person or the timing is not.
Yeah.
Yeah, Huey, I think your message was very well received. You are the receiver and Barbara's the quarterback. I think we all picked up on what you were saying there.
That's exactly right.
No, but just to wrap it up, you guys spit out a lot of good information, a lot of insight into your life, but not just your life, your mentality on how to tackle life, faith, and family and investments, because I don't want this to go over anyone's head. They mentioned that they both sell full-time jobs and not like flipping burgers at McDonald's and, working part-time and going for a smoke break and doing a real estate deal. They both have very high-level full-time jobs, executive level jobs. They have four girls. They have a real estate brokerage. They manage properties, their own investments. They manage real estate, rental property, fix and flips. And they still got MBAs, all as, from an outsider looking in the background. But as Huey said, business as usual, just another step, another thing to tackle. So that is a killer mentality. That is not something to be taken lightly or overlooked or just glossed over. So I want to definitely highlight that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Look, well deserved. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to say to wrap it up? Because we are at time and want to be respectful of your time. Do you have anything else you want to say to wrap it up?
No, I think my final word would be, again, everybody has different goals. Everybody's life and financial literacy situation looks a little different. And to never be, intimidated by what you may see another person doing. Never compare yourself to what another person is doing. We kind of always minimize what we do because we just know there's so much more to do. Nothing's really a big deal to us because there's so much to do. So I just encourage people to just really look at their situation and reach out because experts are always going to give you the best answer. This podcast is great. We're big on encouraging people, whatever their path is, to kind of pursue it and to not be discouraged by what you see someone else doing because your journey is your journey. So that's the only thing I would say.
Yeah, I would just say don't despise small beginnings, right? Like, don't think that you don't have enough to start. I mean, Barbara did say, you need to do things with money. Doesn't mean you can't start in preparation and preparing and doing. And also, like, from like a giving standpoint, you don't have to give 1,000, million, 10,000. You can give $10, and that can make a difference for somebody because it could just be morale that they could have been praying for something. And that $10 is not necessarily, significant in what they were praying for, but it's more of an answer to their prayer in terms of the steps they may need to take. And so, I would just say, just don't ever think it's too small to start. You have to start. Just start somewhere and go and start moving in that direction in which you want to, achieve that goal or move. And I would also say, from a Rackathon standpoint, we're in November, and every November in our charity and Whittaker Family Foundation, we have kind of a campaign that we run. It's called Rackathon, or Random Acts of Kindness. And so, I would tell you that you don't need to like hashtag it or any of that stuff. But if you actually do it, that's the goal of why we're doing it, is to kind of create an atmosphere and environment in which people can be people and help people and do for people unexpectedly, randomly,
without expecting anything in return.
without any. Thank you. That's my quarterback.
Again, another good segue because, then, you know, like you said, you can start without money, and it could be just your educational foundation. Or if you have money, you still don't know how to start because you may not have the right partner to work with. So just throwing it out there, what is the best way for people that want to reach out to you, follow you, learn from you, just get, poured into from you guys? What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
We have our real estate website. The real estate brokerage website is lionsgrouprealty.com, lionsgrouprealty. And we're also on Instagram at Lions Group Realty. That is more of an encouragement. I definitely give you tips, definitely want to give you a good laugh. I think laughter is important. But you can reach out to us through Instagram as well. Our foundation, we have, you can go to our foundation website at whittakerfoundation.org, or on Instagram, you can go to Whittaker_family_foundation. And, our information is out there. We're on LinkedIn. Huey's on LinkedIn a lot. If you're looking into getting into the financial world, you can find him and I both on LinkedIn. I'm not on there as much as I need to be, but that's also a way to reach out to us as well.
Awesome. I think it was very helpful, very insightful. It's good we know that relationships are important in investing, in life, and winning in both of those. So you guys to do it together and highlight that, I think it'll help a lot of people out. So I really appreciate it.
No, appreciate it. And thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. And just to wrap it up, and remember, the reason why we do this and why I do this podcast, we want everyone to remember, with a game plan and consistent action, you too can expect success. Thank you guys very much.